Charlie is here with us now. Good morning to you, Charlie.
Good morning.
Talk us through a little bit about what is involved with your racing. You're a professional racing driver, you're in this cup, and the idea at the end is to be the first transgender racing driver to race in Le Mans?
Absolutely, yeah. So for me, Le Mans 24 Hour was always the burning ambition. It's such a huge race. And so the Michelin Le Mans Cup is really the first step on the ladder of endurance, of professional endurance racing. So this year is a fantastic point in my career to be embarking on this journey. I mean, I actually grew up wanting to be a fighter pilot, but sadly I'm not so good at maths and physics, and so that translated into a love of cars and racing.
So when you made the decision to transition, what was the reaction? Because it is a very male-dominated sport, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's such a testosterone-fueled environment, and I'll be honest, I just couldn't see how I would be accepted in the sport as a trans woman at that point in time. There were no role models. There was nobody like me, especially competing at a professional level. So I just didn't know how I would be treated. And as a consequence of that, I walked away from the sport altogether. And thankfully, friends and family said to me over the course of a year, look, this is your passion, this is what you love doing. And
so you are.
Absolutely. It's a huge part of my identity. And so I did, I went back and I mean, just first time to spectate, to go back and see really what the reaction was going to be like.
And how was it? Because I'd imagine there would be certain people, competitors you'd raced against, mechanics that you'd worked with, that probably had no idea.
Well, this is it. I mean, I spoke to one of my best friends and I said, look, can you just try and tell people what's happening? And I explained to him, obviously, and he was supportive. And he said, yeah, I've told people are pretty surprised. And when I went back for the first time, I was terrified. To this day, it's one of the scariest things I've ever done. I was shaking walking into that paddock, but I knew I needed to just know for my own self if I had a future racing. And I think a lot of people didn't know what was happening. They were like, they didn't recognise me, or they just didn't really understand what I was doing.
But you're here, you're back, you're doing so well. I mean, there is a huge debate, isn't there, raging in sport at the moment about whether transgender women should compete in women sporting events. Martina Navratilova has spoken out about it. Sharon Davis has spoken out about it, saying that they don't think they should. Dame Kelly Holmes in the papers this morning is saying she has concerns because of the idea that there might be a physical advantage for a transgender woman. That doesn't really apply to racing, does it? Because you race men and women together.
Absolutely. Motorsport is one of the few sports where men and women compete equally. There's no separation based on gender.
Do you understand some of the concerns, or? I
understand why people are having this debate. I think the fundamental point to make is that really the IOC and the sports governing bodies are the people who actually make guidelines, and they're the people that are talking to scientists, that look at research, that actually look at the data, and they are making guidelines that ensure that sport has fair competition for everybody. I think it's difficult when you have people who are respected voices in sport who don't really actually have a full grasp of the rules and the guidelines and how they work. Because I think some of the articles that have been written can be very damaging to trans people. It's important to say this affects people not only at a professional and Olympic level. This is also filters all the way back down to a trans person who just wants to play football at their local team, who wants to go to their local swimming bath. And because it creates a very toxic environment for people. And from my own experience, I left my sport altogether, and I know a lot of trans women who've left sport. Sport is something that unites us all, that brings us together, and there are huge health benefits and just a general well-being that comes from playing in a team, and nobody should feel excluded from that.
One of the things that is key, though, is that it is all so new. This whole landscape is changing constantly, and understanding the questions that we can ask and the questions that we can't ask when we're going to say something that maybe could be considered to be offensive. And there will be people looking at it going, on the face of it, hold on, if this person has transitioned from male to female, in my head, that seems like they would have an advantage if they were going to compete in a female field. But it's understanding the detail of that. And
Absolutely. I mean, there's so much to this. I mean, one fundamental fact is that, you know, as a trans woman who's gone through a medical transition, you know, you don't have testosterone in your body. And this is a really simple fact that I think, you know, is actually grossly underreported and that people don't even understand. The guidelines that are set from the IOC that have existed since 2003. This isn't a new thing. You know, trans people have been able to compete all that time, and yet we've not had a single trans athlete compete in the Olympics, let alone win a medal, let alone this domination of trans people taking over women's sport that some people are sort of
concerned that might happen.
Concerned about. When you, and I know myself, when you go through a medical transition, if you've had testosterone in your body your whole life, you take that away, you replace it with estrogen, you lose muscle mass, you lose physical strength. And, you know, that's scientifically documented. There's a lot of scientific research that actually explains this in a lot of detail, but unfortunately a lot of people that are writing these articles aren't actually, you know, using this for reference.
It might have taken away some of your muscle mass, Charlie, but the first time we met was on Ninja Warrior a few years ago, and if you want any idea of what an incredible athlete Charlie is, this is her conquering the course at the first time of asking. Very few people conquered this course as well, particularly, and it was just an incredible experience to watch you do it.
And she even beats the wall. Oh, my goodness. Good work.
I remember that moment so well.
Do you?
Yeah, it was, to this day, it's one of the most incredible things I think I've ever done.
Conquering that, I mean, it was an amazing moment for us as well, because there we are watching you and you got up the top of the wall. It feels like along the way, Charlie, there's lots of moments like getting up the wall that you're conquering.
Thank you. It's, I mean, I feel like, yeah, I've had to conquer a lot of obstacles in my life, but I think every time you achieve something like that, you believe in yourself a bit more. And you know, I'm a very driven person. I think if you believe you can do something, then mentally that's half the battle, really.
Wow. Well, you are so impressive, and you're on to the next stage now. Good luck with that.
Yes,
Good
wouldn't
luck with
rule out being in the Le Mans. When would be the 24-hour race that hopefully you will be competing in if you get to the proper Le Mans?
So 2021 is the target for the actual 24 hours, for real. But I mean, of course, I'm going to be there in June.
Yes.
For the support race. So it's going to be incredible just to be there for that whole week.
Part of it.
And yeah, if anyone would like to follow me, please have a look on my website, Go Charlie, and you can follow the whole journey. It's going to be quite a ride.
There's some great blogs on there as well, and the racing is extraordinary. Charlie, lovely to see you.